Hi, I'm Jeff. This is Tropical Plants at 53 degrees north, and today we're going to look at two new purchases. One is Dendrobium Densiflorum and one is Dendrobium Thyrsiflorum, and they're very special orchids, and I'm going to explain why in a minute or two. And what we're going to do with them is we're going to unpot them, have a good close look at these new purchases. It's a new seller for me as well, by the way, and then I'm going to try and mount them, and I'll explain to you why I'm going to do that in a while. Let's get started. And we are in. Okay, so what should we start with? Well, first of all, let's talk about why these two new purchases for me are particularly special. Now, you may have caught this on one of my other videos. Basically, it was my silver wedding anniversary last week, my 25th wedding anniversary. Crikey, where did that go? That went extremely quickly. I hope there's another 25 years to come. But what happened was I bought my wife a gift, and her gift to me was for me to choose an orchid or a couple of orchids or a plant or whatever it is I wanted really for the greenhouse that would be something that we would remember. And I thought, right, well, I'll keep my mind open for a little while, and being a plant lover, that little while turned out to be about 5 minutes, because I just happened to be flicking through some of Ed's videos, and Ed's going to pop up a couple of times in this video, Ed's orchids, and I spotted one that really kind of took my breath away. And of course it was Dendrobium Densiflorum. That's the one you can see on the right there. And I don't believe it was his orchid. What I'll do actually, I've asked him his permission, and he's very kindly agreed. I'm going to stick up a clip from this particular video where he shows, I think it's his lady friend's Dendrobium Densiflorum in full bloom, and it was spectacular. And I'd not seen anything like this before. Now, as many of you know, I've only been growing orchids for about 18 months now, and I have somewhat limited experience growing them, and I'm trying to grow as many as I possibly can in the environment that I've got. So having seen that, and really what I should have done was look at my conditions and of course chose an orchid to match, but I never do that. Do any of us plant lovers do that? I saw a plant that I liked, I saw the blooms that I liked, I ordered it, and then I looked up what its care needs were. Completely the wrong way to do it, but nevertheless, that's what we do. I know I do it, and you know, I just live with the consequences. So I really like that orchid, and you can see why from the clip that no doubt I've stuck up on the screen by now. So I thought it would be a really good idea to purchase the Dendrobium Densiflorum and the Dendrobium Thyrsiflorum, because I couldn't really decide which to go for because they both look pretty spectacular. So I bought them both, and I thought, well, okay, we've got like a pair here, and I've since found out that they're actually two separate species, but they're both very similar in looks. You know, they both have the same similar kind of habit, and we'll get into that in a minute. There are some differences. So here they are, and I actually purchased them from a new seller for me. I can't remember the name. I'll stick something up on screen. Gross something or other from Germany, I believe it is, and they've arrived very safely, very well packed, not a scrap of damage on them, absolutely perfect. In fact, when I sent my prize winnings down to the winner of my recent 1000 subs giveaway, these came from Germany in actually half the time that it took for that prize to go to only a couple of 100 miles away from here in the south of the UK. So as it turned out, their post is obviously better than our post. Obviously I used a courier. So anyway, regardless, they've come, they're great. I'm very happy with them, and I've kind of broken my rule here in that they're not in bloom. I normally only buy plants in bloom. But what they have got is various species and various cultivars that I can't seem to get over here. So it's great to have another seller to be able to kind of broaden my horizons on what I can actually purchase. So I'll be having another good look at their website now that I've purchased these, and I'm happy with these. Of course, I'm going to have to wait for them to bloom, and I'm really hoping that I get blooms on at least one of them this coming season, like the next spring that we come around to, which can't come quick enough, by the way. So that's the story behind it. So when these do bloom, then I'll be able to point out, and we'll both be able to point out, that this is was to celebrate our silver wedding anniversary. And what better way to celebrate it than with some glorious blooms. So I've unpacked these, as you can see, and what I'm going to do is just have a quick little chat about them before I do the deed and have a go at mounting them. Now, I'm pretty limited again in experience with dendrobiums. I've got a couple of Dendrobium nobiles. I've got Kingianum, which I think it turns out is not actually a Kingianum. It might be a cultivar of a Kingianum. Same care needs, I believe, but not strictly a Kingianum. What else have I got? I've got a Berryoda as well. But they all seem to follow the same kind of care needs, whereas some dendrobiums, I understand, don't. And I thought to myself, okay, let's have a good hunt round at all the information and see if I can find out what kind of care needs these particular dendrobiums come from. Now, these two, I believe, are from the Callista group of dendrobiums. Again, all new to me, this. So I must point out as well that you can go to 10 different sources, whether it be YouTube, whether it be like a blog on the information, or even like an Orchid Society resource sheet, like a fact sheet, and you can end up with 10 different opinions. And this is exactly what happened when I looked up Densiflorum, Dendrobium Densiflorum. So I found quite clearly two sources that said that Densiflorum grows all year round and doesn't need a winter rest. And then I found another 8 sources which quite clearly said that Densiflorum does need a winter rest. So I'm going for the does. That's kind of fits in with what all my other ones do. So basically what we've got here is an evergreen dendrobium. So this one does actually not lose its leaves. I've not put that very well, have I? This one actually doesn't lose its leaves. They don't drop off over the winter time, but they come from eastern Himalayas, I believe, and they do actually experience seasons of a sort. So it should be, or it should fit in with the care needs of my others. I keep it in the cooler side. I understand again that it can go very low, down to maybe 5 degrees Celsius, even lower possibly, and that it's that cold temperature which does in fact induce the buds to grow. As I say, it depended what source you looked at. Other sources said exactly the opposite, but I'll go for the majority. So of course, if anybody has experience of these two dendrobiums, please stick it in the comments. I did of course have a good look at a few of Roger's videos as well, and that was incredibly helpful too. I'm not so sure whether he actually had anything from the Callista group. It's that many videos, it's difficult to find. Maybe he has, and if anybody knows what that is, maybe you could link to it if you know that he has, and I could have a look at that and see if I can find out a little bit more about these two, because I'm really keen not to lose these, and I'm really keen to get them to bloom. So what else did I find out about these before we get into those pots and have a good look? The one on the right, the Densiflorum, is slightly different in that I understand it has like a square cross section. So these canes do have instead of being like rounded, they're quite square, they have flat edges, whereas the Thyrsiflorum doesn't. This one is completely circular if you were to do a cross section of it. Interesting, don't know what the reason is for that, but that is a fact. They come of course in very small pots compared to the size of the plant, especially that one compared to the size of these canes, and I also understand that is good practice for any kind of dendrobium. They prefer to be pretty root bound and in small pots, but of course that means that they fall over quite a lot. And bearing in mind that I don't have much room at all now over in the cooler side, then what I would like to try and do is mount them. And I have over here 2 pieces of whatever it is. Well, I know what this one is. This one's driftwood that I got from the seaside. And I, of course, have soaked it. In fact, it's nearly 12 months ago now when I collected it. and I collected it and I soaked it for a good week to try and get rid of all the salt. It's been just sitting there bone dry ever since. That one was a failed orchid that I had. I can't remember which one it was, so I've recycled that one for use on the Thyrsiflorum. So what I'm going to try and do is mount them. I'm not totally sure yet which way round to mount them. I think what I'll probably do is hang them actually, because I think it's going to be quite a lot of weight to do them vertically. And they're both epiphytes, so they do grow in the nooks of trees, and I guess the natural habit is to hang down, so they should be used to that, shouldn't they? So we'll give it a go. Never done it before. We'll give it a go and let's see what happens. In terms of when is the right time to do this, well, the fact is I really don't know. Nothing would I couldn't find anything that would say this is the right time. I'm trying to think it through a little bit. I would expect really thinking about things like cattleyas, where I was told the best time to repot a cattleya was once the new growths and the new roots come in the springtime. And of course, I didn't ignore that advice. When my last one, I'll just move you over here. When I did, this isn't my last one actually, when I repotted that one, it was the wrong time. However, did it matter? No, not at all. It's still produced loads of roots. It's not bloomed for me, but I don't think that's just the time when I decided to repot it. So the fact is, I'm ready for doing this now. I've got everything out ready, and they need to go somewhere. I'm just going to do it. And of course, if it does need a dry winter rest, then that will or should prevent those roots from getting really wet in the humid side of the greenhouse anyway. So let's have a good look and see if we can kind of figure out whether they've got roots and whether they will go on the mounts, and we'll have a go at it. So I'll set you up on the tripod and let's get cracking with that. Okay, so let's do the harder one first. The harder one's going to be the Densiflorum, so I'll just move the Thyrsiflorum out of the way. And okay, so here we've got the Densiflorum. It's quite a while since I've actually done anything like this with the tripod, so excuse me if it all goes kind of pear-shaped and everything falls off. So I have already prepared this bit of wood here. I've drilled a hole through, I've put my sturdy wire on the top there, and whether this is going to actually be big enough or not, I don't know. So my plan is I'm going to do roots at that side and I'm going to hang it down here. This will be interesting to see what happens. If I'm doing this wrong and I shouldn't actually be doing it this way, then I'll soon find out, no doubt. Somebody will tell me and I will do it the other way around, or even I could just swap it that way around and put a hole in the top. That way, probably easier way of doing it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some sphagnum moss. It's long fibres sphagnum moss. That's going to go over the roots on there, and I'm going to wrap some fishing line around it. Like I say, I've done this probably about half a dozen times so far, so it could all go horribly wrong, but I'm sure that's what people are waiting for, because it's always funnier, isn't it, when it goes wrong. So let's have a look. So has this bloomed before? Well, I'm thinking it has, because I'm looking at these canes here now. So let's start with, it's hard to get all of them on, they're quite long. So we've got these little fiddly ones down here. These are looking pretty shriveled. I wouldn't say completely shriveled, but pretty shriveled. They don't appear to have bloomed. Then we've got this one here, which is a bit bigger. I'm guessing that's 3 years ago. And like I say, they don't lose the leaves on this. I don't know what happens along up here, whether any kind of, whether, I don't even know whether that's where the blooms come from, but it seems clear to me anyway that that's had a bloom here, because they have these big long pineapple shaped, well, the whole thing looks like a pineapple, and this is also known as the pineapple orchid, in fact. Now whether it can get blooms from these other nubbins, I have no idea. It's not a noble, is it? So it might be completely different. It's the Callista group. I would say maybe there and maybe there is where it gets its blooms from, because that looks different. This definitely looks different to this side here, and again there it looks different. It's a different colour, isn't it? So I would say that's where it comes from. So the idea is that we give this a rest over winter, we keep it dry, we don't fertilise it, and then when it comes round to springtime, and if these nubbins start to appear, as if something's going to happen, then that is when we begin to give it some water. If these canes start to desiccate, then of course I will have to give it some. But providing it's in a humid environment, and I don't think I will have a problem with humidity over the winter, bearing in mind it's rained pretty solid for the last 2 weeks. So I can see already we've definitely got new roots there. You can see the new growth there. So that's a good sign, isn't it? Usually when I get my orchids, there's practically no roots on them. It makes a change to get one from a cellar where they all appear to be alive. Hope I've not spoke too soon. So let's have a look in here. So it's the usual sphagnum moss thing with a great big plug in the middle, but for once practically all of them have a green tip, which is brilliant news. Definitely use this cellar again. So I need to get all this out without damaging the canes if I can. You see that there? Yep. I find it really hard to look through the viewfinder and concentrate on what I'm doing at the same time. I'm not a multitasker. I will willingly admit I never have been. I can only focus on one thing at a time. This is when when you're watching something and you're focusing on it, and your wife will say to you 10 minutes later, "Are you listening to what I've said?" And I usually say yeah, because I think I am. I'm not like purposely trying to ignore her. And she knows though. She knows. You're not married for 25 years without knowing this. I can't focus on two things at once. I mean, if you're focusing on two things, then you're not focusing, are you? Actually, it's been proven. I've heard of research that it's been proven that there is actually no such thing as multitasking. What you do is you combine tasks, and it's been proven that male or female, so guys, listen to this, male or female, it doesn't matter. There is no evidence to suggest that females can do it any better, but both sexes were equally as bad when it came to multitasking, and the tasks that they were performing together or like simultaneously, I think actually it was task switching, it was coined as, that was the term that they come up with. That's what people really do. They don't multitask, they task switch, so that they actually do a little bit on one and then they do a little bit on another. And it was proven time and again that they don't perform anywhere near as good when the task switching on those individual tasks as when they completely 100% focused on one task. Why the heck am I talking about this? It's nothing to do with orchids, is it? But yeah, so you can use that as a bit of ammunition when you're told that you're not multitasking properly. You can say, well, research shows that neither do you. You're task switching, and what you're doing is you're actually performing worse at each of those tasks. So there we go. So there are some dead roots here, of course. There's got to be with all this sphagnum moss all kind of stuck in here. I mean, gosh, that is look at all that. That is a lot of moss. And it's going to take a while to get it all out. So I think what I'll do, I may well time lapse this, which will shut me up from wittering on. And then we can get up to the important bit. So let's cue a time lapse. It's about time we've not had one for ages, have we? So 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, and we're back. Now sometimes you get these roots that look very dead and then you kind of follow them, like that one, and it's got like a live piece on the end. It's really bizarre. It's like having a false leg and real feet. So I'm reasonably happy with that. I know I've not got every last piece out, but I think it should be okay. And we have got lots of good roots there as well, certainly more than I normally get with these plants that I buy. And I've not miraculously damaged the other end, not damaged the canes. So the fact that it's been reduced quite significantly in the roots department, just look at all this that's come off it. It's just an absolute mound. You'd never say all that went in a little tiny pot. So I'll just get rid of all that. Just tossed all that into the bin there. So how's this going to go? Now, it's a shame actually, because what I want to do, I guess that's like the old side, isn't it? It's kind of bent round like the wrong way. I could do with it bending round that way. I wonder if I could do it, or shall I just stick it? I don't know. I'm not really sure. Could it go that way? See, if it goes that way, yeah, if you look at it, I'm getting tangled up with my wires, then I've got like the back of it, haven't I? That's no good. I could have just done with it wrapping round in the other direction. So this is what it will look like. I'll just pick you up. So it's kind of going to look like that, hanging down. I think that looks, or will look, reasonable. So it's just how I'm going to get this end bit, because it's curling towards me. Well, basically the wood isn't big enough, is it? I really need like a big piece of cork. I think I'm going to have to try and just do my best. I understand that these roots won't attach anyway. It's the newer roots that will attach. It's just a case of getting it to a point where it's secure. It's got like a nubbin at the back here, which is making it very difficult to get it on. Would it be better like that? That way. I don't have a bigger piece of wood. I think I'm just going to do my best with it, wrap it round and see how it goes. And keep my eye out for a bigger piece of wood. Like I say, it's coming to its resting period anyway. Okay, so what I need to do, I'll just get that out of the way. I need to get my fishing line all set up ready. Now this is my least favourite bit, because the fishing line, I always feel like I've absolutely nothing in my fingers. It feels like trying to knit wool somehow. Trying to knit wool, that doesn't sound right. Trying to knit sand. Apologise for my yucky finger there, that nail. I give it a whack. When you work outside, you very often hurt your fingers, and I did it. It's about a year ago now, and it did actually grow out. Like the nail fell off and it grew out, and then I whacked it again. And as what happens with these things, it's like more susceptible the second time, and this one has just been like that for ages. I'm hoping it does seem to be growing out, but I get funny looks whenever I put my hands anywhere that people can see. Doesn't hurt. So that's going to go like that. I think I'm going to do a few twists first and then see if I can get some moss on it. I must admit it's not really a good, if I get that round it a bit without destroying those roots, it might just work. Let's have a go. It's not like a trying, is it? desperately trying to keep this on camera as well as keep hold of this extremely fine thread that I can hardly see, let alone feel. I know there are different grades of fishing line, aren't there? So whether mine's a particularly thin one or not. I am going to put some moss on top of this in a minute. Hope I don't destroy my silver wedding anniversary present. Right, so this is going to be tied. Again, not my favourite bit. I could do with like 6 pairs of hands at this point. Right, desperately trying to look for somewhere to tie it. Okay, so that is about as firm as something not very firm. I can't think of a simile. It's not very firm, let's just say. So it just did to hold it in place for now while I get some moss on it and hopefully do a better job at going over the top. So this is New Zealand long fibred sphagnum moss. I have no idea whether it's alive or dead. It doesn't say. I would guess it's dead. I've had it for months. So I don't want like a really big heavy moss bed on this. It's really just to give it a little bit of moisture. It will dry out pretty quickly, which is what we want. Let's come off. See a nice growing tip come off. So let's have a look. It always looks so easy when other people do it. So let's get one of these. Is it right over left or left over right? I was in the Cubs, but it's 43 years since, no, 45 years since. Curses, it's come off. Let's hope this works, because I don't relish the prospect of doing it again. Next one should be easier, he says, hopefully. It's another horrendous day today, pouring it down as usual. Very grim. I've just about finished all the greenhouse insulation off now. It's taken me a while. Okay, we are done. Let's hang it up and then I'll show it you. So there we go. That's what it looks like. I shall have to have another play with it, see how firm. Not that firm. not really firm enough. Actually, that's a good place to hang it in order to fasten it up a bit more. So I think what I'll do, I'll fasten that up off camera, and then we'll get cracking with the next one. Okay, so that's Densiflorum done, and I'll show you all finished at the end and where I'm going to hang it. So we're looking at Thyrsiflorum now. So this is an even smaller pot, and I'm anticipating this one to be easier. Certainly hope so. So this doesn't have much at the bottom in the way of roots anyway. Whether any of these are alive or not remains to be seen. I don't really think this one doesn't look to be in as good condition root wise as the Densiflorum. However, I'm not going to cut these off, because if I do, I've nothing, have I? Nothing at all. They're okay. Some of them are squishy. That one is. I mean, you wouldn't expect them all to be okay. That's a squishy one. But these others are quite firm. No, that one's not. That's gone. I think there's probably a few more in there that's gone, but I'm not really concerned about that at the moment. I think it's a case of we've got to have something to hold on to, haven't we? So what I'm going to do with that, let's just clean this up here, get rid of all the bark, and that one is going to go on this. And again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to stick it on like that and hang it like that, and put a little bit of moss on top. What's that one like? That one's okay. So how they'll take to this, I really don't know, but it'll give me space and I'll be able to hang them somewhere. I've got places to hang. Plus it adds to the feel of it. I think it improves the feel of things. Notice that's been used before, or done before with some wire here, which is probably a good idea. I might as well make use of that, seeing as it's there, and get one of these canes underneath it. I'll get that kind of main cane there. Try and not garrot it, and that'll give me a start and help me to anchor it in place. Felt an idea. Somebody knew what they were doing. So if we just fasten that up. Right, so we've already got something in place, haven't we? As I say, that's got to be my blooms next year, hopefully. I mean, the way these bloom, they don't bloom like Nobiles or like the Berryoda does. So I don't know what class they are. Like I say, I'm quite new to all the different Dendrobium types. So this one, I'm going to go straight for the moss for this one, because this one should, theoretically, be a simpler job. Famous last words that, isn't it? So again, what I'll do, I'll speed this up so you don't get bored. 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, and that's done as well. So let's have a look at what they look like in their new place. And there we are. So on the right we've got Thyrsiflorum, and on the left we've got Densiflorum. Now I don't anticipate that they will stay there, because they're in the right side, they're in the cold side of the greenhouse. But what I'd really like to do, you can see we have this rill here with the holes in it. Well, I'd like something about that kind of height, just below where the vents open, that kind of goes across, because that kind of height there would be quite nice. It's a little bit away from the shelving there, and it would give that like another layer to it, another layer to the the feel of the greenhouse, the jungly effect of the greenhouse. So that's something for me to work on next. So I'm going to have to try and think of a way of hanging them along there. I've thought of using chains. I've noticed that you can buy these plastic chains, and I could fix one over to the wood over there, somehow over to this side, and then you've got loads of things that you could hang on there, loads of opportunities for hanging. If anyone's got any ideas, I'm all ears. There might be a cheaper way that I don't have to actually buy something for that. So at the moment they look okay to me. I'm probably not going to water them now. We're at that time of year, they're ready for the rest. I think I'll just leave them and see what happens, see what develops. Hopefully they will stay on their new mounts, on their new homes, and they won't all fall to bits as soon as I do eventually water them. So I hope you enjoyed that video. A little bit different for me anyway, and I've learned a lot, and I'm hoping to learn a lot from you in the comments. So give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and please do put your thoughts, experiences, whatever you would like to put in the comments. And for now, I'll see you on the next one. Bye.